Hi guys, it's Cameron from the Mighty Blues. Welcome back today to another live stream. Welcome today to the game review for Watford 1, Everton 0 last Saturday. What an absolutely shocking performance and shocking result that was. And I feel like it's starting to get to the point now where you can almost pretty much clip that saying, what a shocking performance, what a shocking result, and just play it after every single game, because it's the same thing week in, week out. We are being beaten by teams that realistically we should be beaten, but we're not showing any heart, we're not showing any passion. And for me on Saturday, Marco Silva showed his managerial weaknesses and his naivety in the substitutions that he made. And for me, that was a massive reason as to why we lost that game. The substitution to bring Gomes off, a central midfielder, and put Theo Walcott on, a right winger, massively left a big hole in the centre of the park and allowed Watford to easily throw a ball across the box. Unmarked player, Andre Gray, puts it in the back of the net, and it's far too easy for me, and Marco Silva does have to take responsibility. Now listen, I think it's going to be a really interesting stream tonight, because I know a lot of people won't want to talk about the game, and I understand that, and personally, hence why I've left it till Tuesday, I really didn't particularly want to talk about the game. You know, yesterday I was feeling a little bit ill, my back was a little bit sore, but I thought, you know what, I'm not really interested in talking about, you know, what's going on at the pitch at Everton at the moment. We've had some statistics released today about the new stadium and the consultation, which is looking good, but at the minute, what we're seeing on the pitch week in, week out is absolutely shocking, and it's really not good enough. And it was the same on Saturday. You know, you're sitting there watching a game of football and you're thinking, you know what, this is just an average, boring game of football, and that's what it was. You know, God help, I'm pretty sure we were last on Match of the Day, but if we weren't, there must have been an absolute shocking game, because we were shocking. The only thing that happened in that game was the goal and Zuma getting sent off after the final whistle. Nothing else happened. The game was so shocking. We didn't come with any character, we didn't come with any passion, we didn't show anything, we were just nothingness. We were just absolutely nothing. And for me, Marco Silva got it wrong on Saturday. I don't think he should have changed the team. I think if he was to make one change, it would have possibly been Theo Walcott coming out from the team that was beaten by Manchester City. And that was not because I think the team that was beaten by Manchester City put in an absolutely amazing performance, but the team that was beaten by Manchester City actually showed a little bit of fight. They showed a little bit of heart. They actually turned up and went, you know what, I'm not going to be fucking embarrassed here. I'm going to turn up, and yeah, we probably will get beat because it's Manchester City, but I'm going to show a little bit of passion, I'm going to show a little bit of fight. He changes that round and he brings in certain players that at the minute aren't performing to the best of their ability, and at the minute, more importantly, aren't showing any heart. And on Messi says there, Gylfi is dog shite. I don't particularly think he's a bad footballer, but at the minute, he's not showing any heart, he's not showing any passion, he's not showing that he wants to play for Everton Football Club. Again, on Saturday, he done the exact same. I didn't particularly think Theo Walcott was awful when he come on Saturday, but the substitution that Marco Silva made was absolutely mind-blowing. If you're wanting to bring Theo Walcott off there, you've got Cenk Tosun, who done minimal in the game, and you've got Gylfi Sigurdsson, who done nothing in the game. Take one of those players off to bring on an attacker. What did Marco Silva do as soon as he took Gomes off for Walcott? He then took Sigurdsson off, he then took Tosun off, or Charlison off, sorry. Why didn't he make them substitutions prior to changing a midfield three that, in my opinion, were doing okay? Yes, we weren't fantastic, we weren't brilliant, but they were holding their own. He changes that, he changes the whole dynamic of the game, and lo and behold, we go and concede a goal, which is a ball through the box on a man that's unmarked. And for me, it's just not good enough. Let me just tweet out the stream so everybody knows that we are live, so everybody can come over and watch if they feel like. I understand a lot of people will probably not want to talk about this game because they'll have probably just gotten that calamity out of their head, so I doubt they'll want to come over and talk about it now. Mester also says, effing fuming. Yeah, me and you both, mate. I don't know why I bleeped that. Fucking fuming. Mess says, hope Walcott, Keane and Gylfi leave next season. Can't believe DCL, Kenny and Lookman are playing with those. I'm not going to say that word. And Mess says, Lookman defo leaving, Silva drops in for no reason. I don't understand why Lookman hasn't had much game time, to be honest with you. I think in the current situation with Theo Walcott, who clearly isn't playing well at all, and when I say isn't playing well, I mean is absolutely abysmal at the minute. Again, nothing against Theo Walcott, he's just not being good enough at the minute. Very similar situation with Gylfi Sigurdsson, nothing against him, but he just hasn't been good enough at the minute. I don't quite understand how then players are getting as much game time as there is, but you've got the likes of Ademola Lookman who, okay, hasn't been absolutely breathtaking when he played, but he's shown spells and he's come on and he's shown a little bit of heart and he's shown, you know what, I want to get forward, I want to create some chances. But what Marco Silva seems to be doing at the minute is he seems to be going with the safe option, and I had a little think about this yesterday and after the game and on Sunday as well. I thought, what's going wrong at Everton at the minute? What is the issue at our football club? Because there's very clearly an issue. You know, we are literally at the minute a mid-table side, and we're being beaten by pretty much any team with a little bit of character. I mean, a smidge of character. Any team with that is beating us. So what is going on at the minute? Is it purely the manager's fault? Is it purely a managerial issue? I don't think it is, and I don't think it is for a number of reasons. If you join us tomorrow at around 6:15, same time tomorrow, we are going to be doing a stream about what the actual issue, or what in my opinion are the issues at our football club and how we can resolve these issues, and why it might not just be Marco Silva. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, you know, Marco Silva's immune from this and he hasn't been naive and he's absolutely perfect and he's the man for the job. Listen, Marco Silva mightn't be the man for the job. For me, I'm holding on to the fact that I don't want Marco Silva sacked because I don't see a replacement that can come in that's realistic for me. People will say Wenger, people will say Mourinho, people will say Ancelotti. They're not realistic for me. On the flip side, people will say David Wagner. You're mad, aren't you? Eddie Howe, no experience. Arteta. There's people that want Arteta to be the Everton manager but want Silva sacking because he's got no experience. It doesn't make sense, and that's why I'm sort of hanging on Marco Silva to stay, because I don't think there's a relevant plan or a good enough plan in place if he was to leave the club at the minute. And I know that might be a little bit of a, well, just, settle for bad because you don't know what's going to happen next. It might be a little bit of a negative approach, but for me, I think if we are to sack Marco Silva, we need to know which manager's going to come in, and we need to know the plan, what's going to happen, who's going to, what the philosophies are going to be. What this team needs is a massive kick up the arse, and there's definitely issues at our football club. Like I said, I refuse to put them solely on Marco Silva, and I think people would be very naive to put them solely on Marco Silva, because we are now 4 managers in to, in the last, since David Moyes, let's say 4 managers in the last 18 months, 4 managers in, we've had Roberto Martinez, Ronald Koeman, Sam Allardyce, and now Marco Silva. We won't class David Unsworth in there because he only, managed us for a brief spell of 2 or 3 weeks. All 4 managers have had a very similar problem with players not showing enough heart, not showing enough passion, not actually turning up, players just crumbling under pressure. And I think there's a bigger issue within our football club. Like I said, we'll talk about it in tomorrow's team, so don't forget to join us about 6:15 tomorrow, where we will talk about what's going on at the football club and where I personally believe is the issues. And I think it'll be a really, really interesting stream tomorrow, because you guys can get involved as well and let me know in the live comments, let me know in the comments of the YouTube video that'll obviously go up after it, what you think the issues are. Because yes, I think there is issues with Marco Silva. I'm not going to deny that. I think it was Marco Silva's fault that we lost on Saturday, and I think he has to take responsibility for that one. But I think there's other issues as well. If Marco Silva isn't the right man and he has to leave the football club because he's not the right man, then surely we have to start asking questions of the people above in the the higher seats, the likes of your Farhad Moshiri, the likes of your Bill Kenwright, and say, well, hang on, this is the 4th manager you've employed that you see as to match your ambition, which is very clear, is to be in the Champions League in the next 4 years and to be challenging for the Premier League. Bearing in mind the teams that are challenging for the Premier League at the minute are some of the best teams in world football. How come the 4 managers you have last appointed literally don't even look like they can, barely look like they can keep a team up in the Premier League? Because that's the situation we're at. We aren't a football club. I think some Everton fans seem to forget that. We aren't in the situation like a Manchester United. Manchester United might sack their manager for being 6th in the league and not challenging for the top 4. Manchester City would sack a manager for not challenging for the league. Every single manager we've sacked in the last 18 months, talking them 4, and what may be Marco Silva or not Marco Silva, we are dangerously close to a relegation battle. Dangerously close. We were under Koeman, we were under Martinez, we weren't under Allardyce, but I suppose he sort of picked it up at a point where we couldn't have been, but I probably think we would have been. And we, at the minute, if we keep playing how we're playing and if the results keep going how they're going, we'll be dangerously close to a relegation battle. I think we are very lucky at Everton, and I think we've been very lucky for the last 3 or 4 seasons now, is that there is at least 5 or 6 teams in this league that are absolutely shite, that even Everton aren't as bad as, and that's why we're staying mid-table, and that's why we aren't looking as bad. But, like I said before, any team with a little bit of character, any team with a little bit of something about them will beat Everton at the minute, because they will. The only teams that we will beat now are the teams that just absolutely lack quality and just really aren't good enough. Any team with a little bit of about them will beat us, because they will beat us, because we haven't got any of that. We don't seem to have any passion, we don't seem to have any fight. For me, it really looks like the players are just not bothered. They're not playing for the manager, they're not playing for the fans, and I accept the fact that, listen, they might have some issues with the manager, fans might have issues with the manager, but there's absolutely no excuse is to not put your all into a football match when you've got this badge on your chest, to not give everything for that royal blue jersey. And I'm a fond believer of, I don't give a shit what the situation is at the football club. I don't care if you're managed by Postman Pat, Marco Silva, Pep Guardiola, my nan. I don't give a shit. When you are out on that football pitch, you put 100% in for that shirt. You can come off that pitch and say the style of football isn't the way we want to play. The manager doesn't really seem to get us. You can say that. You can have your opinion. That's fair enough, and I understand that in the workplace when you've got somebody, and I'm not saying this is the situation in Everton, but when you've got a boss that doesn't really understand what you're doing, or is trying to mismanage you, then it is hard to get that little bit of optimism and a little bit of, alright, I'll go the extra mile. But these players are on 160 grand a week. What I don't want to see is Marco Silva leave in the summer, what I don't want to see is Marco Silva leave the football club and all of a sudden Theo Walcott and Gylfi Sigurdsson become world beaters. Because in my opinion, piss off with them as well, because you've sat there for the previous months and you've not put the effort in for the shirt. You've not looked bothered. You've not looked interested. They had this, this was a massive situation with Manchester United very, recently, with Paul Pogba and Anthony Martial saying, but practically coming out and not playing for Manchester United, not putting the fight in because they didn't like Jose Mourinho. Fair enough, you don't like Jose Mourinho, but you're on £300,000 a week. Go and put a little bit of effort in for that shirt. And if I was a United fan, I'd have probably been one of them ones that said, well, you know what, Pogba, you're going to have to do something massive now, otherwise you can piss off as well. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Manchester United. Like I said, at Everton at the minute, it doesn't seem like there's we don't have anything about us. We just don't have anything about us, and that's why the more we watch Everton and the later it becomes into the season, you start to realise that it is just boring. We are just an average side. You wouldn't go out to the pub and watch us if you weren't an Everton fan. You wouldn't look forward to watching us if you weren't an Everton fan. I sat there on Saturday and watched us and thought, you know what, this is a shambles. This is a shambles. Nothing's happened other than the goal. The Kurt Zouma sending off I didn't see until I seen on Twitter afterwards. I really, really didn't see it. We literally are a nothingness at the minute, and it really, really frustrates me. It really does, because like I said at the start of the scene, you could pretty much clip me saying another awful defeat, another embarrassing performance, and play that for the last 4 games. I could have stood outside St Mary's 2 or 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whenever it was, and said, we were shocking tonight, awful results, let's hope for something next week. And I could have played that from that game, next game, and it would just be in the same situation, because that's the situation. We don't seem to be improving, we don't seem to be going anywhere, and that's the most frustrating thing for me. Yes, some of the issues might be down to Marco Silva, yes, some of the issues might be down to the players, but I think there's other issues at our football club. I think there's deeper issues, and like I said, it'll be really interesting to do that stream tomorrow, because it'll be really interesting to hear all your guys' opinions as well on what is exactly going wrong at this football club at the minute, because we weren't world beaters under Ronald Koeman, we were shocking. We weren't world beaters under Martinez, other than that first season when Martinez started to be exposed in terms of his defensive frailties. We were poor. Nobody liked the football under Sam Allardyce. And at the minute we're having issues with Marco Silva. So what's going on? What's going on? Why, there's very similar set of players here that played under a lot of their managers that aren't really giving it what they should be giving it, to be honest. And I want to know the reasons for that, and I want to know the reasons as to why we aren't performing, because look, we haven't got a game now for 2 weeks. I think we played 2 weeks today or tomorrow or something like that. 17 days it was from after the Watford game. There ain't no excuse now for players to be tired. There ain't no excuse for players to be, worn out. Marco Silva come out recently, very, very recently, in a couple of games ago in his pre-game press conference and said, listen, these lads haven't had a rest since Christmas. Fair enough. I've seen a picture today of Cenk Tosun in a foreign country and Luca Dean in Paris, so I don't want to wear that excuse because they've had a rest. And they've had rests anyway, because Luca Dean's Instagram story is always him in a different country, whether it be France, whether it be Spain, it's always him somewhere else. So they've had rests. I don't want to hear the same excuses. If a player isn't putting 100% in for the shirt, then don't bother walking on the football pitch to me. If you know in your heart you ain't going to put it 100% in, I'd rather you turn around and go, you know what, not really into your philosophy or what you're doing, and I love these fans, so realistically, well, actually I wouldn't. I was going to say realistically I want them to say I don't want to play, but realistically I want them to fucking sit up and go, actually I'm on a load of money here, so I'm just going to pull through it. And I know it's not always that easy, and I know people will say, oh well, you shouldn't necessarily work for someone that's treating you poorly, but we don't know Marco Silva is treating those players poorly. We don't know that Marco Silva has lost the dressing room, but what we do know is that we're becoming boring, we're becoming average to watch, and we're losing to any average team, and it's just really not good enough. Let's go into the live comments now. Mess says, Lookman defo leaving, Silva drops in for no reason. I think Lookman will probably be looking for a move if he doesn't get much game time, if I'm being honest. Paul says, it's the players for me, Cam. Silva has got his faults, but when they cross the white line, it's on them. Defenders can't defend, midfielders can't create, and the strikers can't strike a match. 100%, I agree with you, Paul. I agree. I think, listen, for me, as I said, growing up an Evertonian, and it might be different for us, it might be different for me, it might be different for you, Paul, it might be different for Mest, it might be different for us, because we've grew up Evertonians. We love this football club with every single fibre of our body. We love Everton Football Club. Somebody like, you know, Theo Walcott, who grew up in Southampton, or started his career in Southampton, spent a load of his career in London, and, you know, really isn't an Everton fan, let's be honest. Similar situation to Gylfi Sigurdsson. I know he was pictured as a kid outside Goodison, but spent a lot of his career in Swansea, you know, obviously spending the first part of his career in Iceland, isn't probably an Everton fan. So it's a lot easier for us to say, listen, why aren't you fighting for the shirt? Why aren't you, you know, passionate? But for me, any footballer, whether you're playing for Everton, whether you're playing for a different team, any footballer that steps over that white line should give 150% to that football club, because at the end of the day, there's 40,000, 30,000 fans sitting there that have paid good, hard-earned money. It's not cheap to go to a football match. My season ticket's £350, something like that. You know, in a couple of years, my season ticket will go to £500. Do I want to spend £500 to go and watch a show? Absolutely no passion, no fight, and absolutely no ability, and then be undone by a ball into the box and a player standing there? The goal, it's Andre Gray's knee. He doesn't even know where he is. Do I want to spend £500 to see that consistently? No. So for me, I agree, Paul. I think the players do need to take responsibility. I think Marco Silva takes responsibility for Saturday's loss, because I think the substitutions were absolutely mind-boggling. You know, I think for me, to be honest, the starting 11 was absolutely mind-boggling. To start with Cenk Tosun, Richarlison and Gylfi Sigurdsson as a front three. A, Gylfi Sigurdsson can't play off a wing, so there's a negative. B, Cenk Tosun isn't fast enough, hasn't got enough pace, neither's Gylfi Sigurdsson. So what we've done there is we've absolutely sucked the pace out of our attacking line, and we've gone, okay, we'll keep it, a genuine nice midfield, Davis, Gomes, we'll keep them, and we'll just have no pace up front. Even the Everton admin didn't know what formation we were playing, because he couldn't make out what was going on. And there's been, questions, maybe he played, Gylfi in the 10 and Richarlison and Tosun up front. Doesn't matter what he played, it didn't work. And when he had the opportunity to change it, he brought off a central midfielder. Now, whether you believe Gomes was having a good game or not is irrelevant. At that point, when you're bringing on an attacker to win a game of football, you cannot take off one of your midfielders that, forms that three, because he just left a massive gap there in the midfield. And then to take off the attackers that aren't playing good enough, it's just like, why didn't you do that before? For me, it was Marco Silva's fault on Saturday, but I do agree with you, Paul. I think the players need to take responsibility as well. Mess 45 million for Gylfi, no free kick goals, effing fraud. I think you're quite frustrated with Gylfi, to be honest. Listen, to be honest, I feel the pain. I like Gylfi Sigurdsson, I really, really do, and I think at parts this season he's looked absolutely fantastic for Everton, but I also think at parts this season he's looked like, he shouldn't be anywhere near this team. He's not given any, passion. He's not showing any passion. He's not given any heart. And his quality at the minute is lacking majorly. He's not creating much. So I do understand the frustration. Matthew says, if Cardiff beat Watford at home, then beat us at home, which I think they will do, they'll be 2 points behind us. How embarrassing is that, Cam? Exactly. Very embarrassing. And Cardiff were near the start of the season being touted to be in the relegation battle as well. So where does that leave Everton? Shabba says Silva talks about youth then doesn't play Lookman. 100%. Paul says our players will bottle it again against Cardiff. They will show desire and passion for the badge. Exactly. And then we all know the situation that's going on with Cardiff at the minute, and we're not going to go into it because it's a devastating situation. And I don't think I've streamed since obviously Emiliano Sala's body was found and he was pronounced dead. So rest in peace to him, and all thoughts go out to his family as well as the family of the pilot as well, Dave Ibbotson, I think his name is, I believe. So yeah, obviously it's a really, really devastating situation, and Cardiff City at the minute are in a really, really devastating time for that football club. But one thing that will do is that will push them through, and that will make them want to fight more. That'll make them want to give that passion, because one thing Neil Warnock won't do is he won't let them players go out and waltz around. He won't let them players accept the fact that they're not the best team in the league, accept the fact that they might go down. He'll be saying in that team talk every week, we need to prove something, that we need to go out and we need to fight for this badge. We need to fight for Salah. We need to fight for every single Cardiff City fan that is going through an awful time at the minute. We need to fight. And at the minute, I say this week in, week out, every team that fights against Everton and shows a bit of passion will beat us, because the bottom line is we don't do that. And at the minute, we ain't got the quality in the team. We really haven't got the quality. I've said it time and time again. How many of these players are good enough to play in a top 6 side? For me, 2 or 3. I've said that before, and people in the comments have gone, who's the 2 or 3? Exactly. So it will be a tough game against Cardiff. It really, really will be a tough game, and we need to show our professionalism, and we need to turn up and go, well, you know what, we are the better team and we're going to win this game of football. But we've got 2 weeks now before that game. Marco Silva needs to get these lads in the dressing room and say, listen, what's going on? Because if you're fighting for me, if you want me to be your manager next season, we need to start fighting. Because there's being serious questions asked to Marco Silva now, serious questions, and a lot of Evertonians now are saying, there's a lot of Evertonians saying he should be sacked, but equally there's a lot of Evertonians going, it's not the end of the world if he gets sacked, is it? And I think at the minute he's losing Evertonians rapidly, and I think the players are losing Evertonians as well. Where are we here? Jack says, don't go for Mourinho. I personally wouldn't go for Mourinho either, Jack. I agree with that one. Mike says, Gomes looks average and we don't need average players. Silva was looking for a win, hence the change. I did not agree with it, but there you are. Yeah, I think, listen, to be honest, I think Andre Gomes, I think he's a fantastic footballer. I really, really do. I think on the ball, he's absolutely brilliant. What I think Andre Gomes' biggest not issue, but I suppose what he lacks is he doesn't do enough in the final third. He doesn't do enough going forward. He's not a creative midfielder. I know a lot of Evertonians, including myself, when he first broke into the team, were saying, oh, he very much might be the next Mikel Arteta. He ain't that type of player, because he isn't creative enough. He doesn't create enough. I know he scored that fantastic goal against Wolves last week or a couple of weeks ago, but he doesn't create enough for me. And I think he's pretty on the ball, and he does do that role. And I think Andre Gomes, around other players that were of a nature of that professionalism and as good on the ball as him, would really benefit in the squad. But at the minute, he doesn't offer us enough going forward, and that's why I think some fans are starting to say, really, is he that good? I think, listen, for me, like I said, I agree with maybe bringing Theo Walcott on, and I don't think Theo Walcott had an awful game. I want that to be known on record, that I'm not saying why bring Theo Walcott on. He was very clear he's shite, and he was shite in that game, because I actually don't think he was. I think Theo created more chances than Richarlison did, created more chances than Gylfi Sigurdsson did in the short time that he was on, but it was just the wrong substitution for me, and it left us really, really frail in my opinion. Paul says he hasn't got the players. A wake up call on Gomes. He came here like a Rolls Royce and now he's broken down on the hard shoulder. This reminds you of anyone else, Schneiderlin. Spot on, mate, absolutely spot on. And every time somebody says about Morgan Schneiderlin now, every time an Evertonian will say to me, listen, Morgan Schneiderlin's absolutely shocking footballer. I always think, well, you know what, recently he has been poor, but I remember when he first come in that January transfer window, for the first couple of weeks, couple of months, he was absolutely unbelievable. He was turning it up, and we were looking at him like we were looking at Gomes going, Jesus Christ, he's a footballer here. Now what happens a couple of years down the line, and all of a sudden he's not anywhere near the team, and fans literally, turn their eye at the fact that he could get anywhere near the team, and I'm worried that a similar situation would happen with Andre Gomes, to be honest. Paul says, love your passion, Cam. We need you to spend 5 minutes with them before the derby. I wish I could, mate. I really, really wish I could, but unfortunately, I don't think the club really want to install some passion into the team at the minute. Matthew says, Ped and Baz seem to think Everton in a relegation battle. Thoughts, Cam? Listen, I think I think on the very surface of it, we are in a relegation battle. I don't think you can say we're not in a relegation battle, because the fact of the matter is, and the pure fact is, that anybody above us can beat us. Anybody with a little bit of, passion, a little bit of something can beat us. And at the minute, I don't think we will get relegated, because, like I said, I think there's about 5 or 6 teams at least that are absolutely, shite, and will, be relegated before us, and we've been in this situation before. But we're definitely in a relegation battle, and what tends to happen with those teams that aren't as good is they understand it in a relegation battle, and they show a little bit of fight, and they go, well, you know what, this might be the last time we play in the Premier League for a few years, so we're going to actually fight, we're going to make the most of it, we're going to enjoy ourselves. And that's when they start to pick up points. That's when they start to, get a decent run going, when they start to enjoy themselves, and when they start to, actually fight for the badge and fight to want to stay in the Premier League. Everton at the minute, the players very clearly aren't enjoying the football and very clearly aren't fighting for the team. So I think Ped and Baz are right. I think in the very literal sense, we are in a relegation battle. I don't think we will go down, but, if we don't start winning football games, it's going to be really, really dangerous, I'll tell you that. John says the modern day players can't motivate themselves unless they are playing for the best teams, and even they can't be bothered sometimes. Example, Chelsea, Man United, pre-Solskjaer. Exactly, too much money in the game for me. Stoll says, I want Silva to do well here, but the decision making baffles me. He finally changed the system against City, after us asking if for ages it worked, then he changes it back. He is annoying now. I agree. I want it to work for Marco Silva, and I don't want Marco Silva to be sacked. I am backing Marco Silva because, like I said, I think there's other issues at our football club. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But I'm backing Marco Silva because I think, listen, at the minute, there's a lot of issues at the football club, and there's a lot of people not taking responsibility for those, aka the players, aka the higher staff, the people on the board, aka maybe some of the backroom staff, maybe some of the coaches. There's a lot of people, and I think it would be unfair for us to solely go, it's Silva's fault, you're not good enough, because we've done that with 4 previous managers. We've still got, Farhad Moshiri who's employing these people. So if Marco Silva isn't good enough, then what's going on in his head to employ them? Because at the start of every single manager's reign in the last 18 months, it's been, here's the person to take us forward, he is going to, help us achieve our dreams and all this. You've got Denise Barrett-Baxendale at the AGM saying, listen, in 4 years we're going to want to be challenging for the Champions League and the Premier League. Now, I'm not saying she has any, input on the decision making, or it should be her issue. But what I'm saying is, if that is the expectation of the board, is that if that is the expectation of the hierarchy of Everton Football Club, and now we're looking at maybe potentially 4 managers that haven't even been good enough to get us in the top 7, 8 in the Premier League, then what's going on with the people that are employing them? I think Marcel Brands has got a massive job to do in the summer, and for me, I would like Marco Silva and Marcel Brands to stick together in that summer, and I want to see what starting 11 starts, in the first game of next season. I really do, because I think it could look, much change to what it looks now. But like I said, if we're still in the same situation this time next year, then maybe Marco Silva does need to leave. But at the minute, I agree, I am backing him, but you're 100% right. He changed it against Manchester City. He played the 4-3-3. We showed a little bit of passion. We showed a little bit of fight. The midfield played better than they have, any time recently. And what does he do? He changes it again, and then he changes it again mid-game, and then we fall apart. And for me, it's a massive point, and I wanted to really bring it up just before I go into it. If you are enjoying the stream so far, please do leave a like, subscribe if you are new already. I think subscribe if you're new as well. Sorry, I think we're on 366 subscribers, so we're getting closer and closer to that 500 subscriber mark, or that 400 subscriber mark. Sorry, my goal for the end of this year was 500 subscribers. So if we could hit 500 subscribers, before the end of the year, that would be absolutely unbelievable, and the support has been absolutely fantastic. So please do subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like on the stream if you're watching this live, and please do leave a like on the video if you're watching this afterwards as well. All of your support means a massive amount to me, and it's absolutely unbelievable, how people want to come and hear me rant about Everton and talk about Everton. It still blows me, man. But like I said there, just to go on to your point, Stoll, about changing the system, for me, a massive issue with our football club at the minute is consistency. I think the reason why we lost this game on Saturday, and we'll talk a little bit more about the game, even though we don't really want to in a second, but I think a massive reason as to why we lost this game on Saturday was because we were inconsistent. And what has happened in the majority of this season, and what has happened in recent weeks, is Marco Silva is changing the team pretty much every single week, whether it be formation, whether it be captain, whether it be players, personnel, whether it be like I said, the way the players are told, tactics. He is changing it every single week, and we don't have that consistent basis now, and it's it's really frustrating because we're seeing it. You could sit there at 10-2 with your pint in the pub, before going to Goodison Park for a 3 o'clock kickoff, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, whereas I can roughly predict what the team's going to be, it could be massively different. You could sit there saying, okay, and I, like you all know, I give my predicted starting 11 in every single game preview, being sometimes where I've been really, really close. There's been sometimes where I've been massively off, but I think the most important thing is that Marco Silva is constantly changing this team. He's constantly changing captains. He's constantly changing tactics, and I don't think it works. I really, really don't think it works. Don't get me wrong. If he hasn't found the right formation yet, if he hasn't found the right tactics for the players, if the players aren't playing good enough, then maybe change is needed. But to change it every single week, which is what is happening, literally every single week or every single time we lose, it's being changed. It just doesn't work for me. Changing that centre-back partnership for me has really cocked our season up, and I'm not saying it's the reason why we're not winning football matches. I'm not saying, blame the fact that the centre-back partnership's always changing, but I think to disturb that defensive line as much as we have done this season, aka sometimes it's Zuma and Keane, sometimes it's Mina and Keane, sometimes it's Mina and Zuma. The only reason why it's been consistent in the last couple of weeks is because Mina's been injured, and to change that defensive back partnership, I really don't think it helps the team, and I really don't think it helps Jordan Pickford either. And I think overall in football these days, consistency is massive. These players are going out and they're training every single day, week in, week out. How are they meant to train and really get themselves involved and really get themselves hyped up for the game if they don't know what the formation is going to be, if they don't know what the tactics are going to be, if they don't know, who's going to be playing next to them, if they don't know who the captain of the team is going to be? And it really does make me question. I don't know whether it makes any of you guys question. Let me know in the comment section down below. It really does make me question, does Marco Silva know what he's doing? Does he know what he wants or is he just playing a guessing game and just doing different things week in, week out and seeing which one works? For me, the captaincy issue has been massive this season. The inconsistency of the captain. We've seen Sigurdsson, Davis, Coleman, Baines, Jagielka, who else have we seen take it? Pretty sure somebody else has taken the armband as well, and this is on a consistent basis. Look, for me, one of the things I was absolutely made up to see was Tom Davis captain on Saturday with Gylfi Sigurdsson still on the team, and I think that's what needs to be the issue now, because that's not the issue, that's what needs to be the situation now, because the issue in the last few weeks is that the most experienced players got the armband or the Evertonian in the squad, and that's what's been happening recently. For me, listen, if Luca Dean goes and plays 37 games in a season because he's absolutely fantastic and he gets suspended for one and Leighton Baines comes in, Leighton Baines shouldn't have the armband for me, because he's not good enough to get in the team consistently. He's not good enough to be in there week in, week out, so he shouldn't be the captain when he has to come in for the one-off game or when he has to come in for the cup games. And I really, really love Leighton Baines, and he's an Everton legend, and I'm just using that as an example. But for me, that's the issue. We're seeing different captains virtually week in, week out. 1 minute it's Gylfi Sigurdsson, who is very clear he can't captain the side because he's not a leader. 1 minute it's Tom Davis, who's been doing okay at the minute. 1 minute it's Coleman, but then Coleman's not doing well. If Coleman ain't good enough to be in this team, and you're going to give John Joe Kenny his effort, when Coleman does eventually come back in, because he will, don't give him the armband, because he's been dropped for not being good enough. So he can't be good enough to be he can still be a leader on the pitch, but he can't wear that captain's armband. For me, your captain should be your first name on the team sheet as the leader. And if you're looking and you're going, our club captain, our captain of this team, he shouldn't really be in this team, then he shouldn't really be in the captain. You can be the club captain, as they say, and the player that is in the dressing room, your Jagielka, for example, who is in the dressing room and who's riling them up and who's giving them that little bit of passion. But there needs to be a captain and a leader on the pitch, and for me, there has to be someone that's playing week in, week out, and that inconsistency hasn't helped us at all this season. The fact that we've had different captains constantly, the fact that the team has been changed constantly, it really, really doesn't help for me. Paul says our next few fixtures: Cardiff away, Liverpool at home, Newcastle away, Chelsea at home, West Ham at home, away, and Arsenal at home. Seriously, how many points are we really going to get from that? I'd like to think beat Cardiff. You know what? I'd like to think beat Newcastle as well, but they give Wolves a game yesterday, and Wolves absolutely tore us to bits. I'm not going to mention the Liverpool game because I'd love us to say we'll beat them again with Chelsea, again with West Ham, again with Arsenal. For me, I think we'll play better against your likes of your Arsenals, your Chelseas and your Liverpools. I think the teams like Newcastle, West Ham and Cardiff that we'll struggle against. I really, really do. I'm going to go out of 3, 6, 9, 12, 18, 21... I've cocked that up majorly, haven't I? What's going on with me maths there? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. I really don't know. Let's say 3 points against Cardiff. a point against Liverpool, so 4, point against Newcastle, 5, maybe 3 against West Ham, 8. I don't know. That's just me being optimistic at the minute. Listen, I don't see us getting any points against anyone at the minute with the way we've been playing. Certainly not teams that show a little bit. And one thing Newcastle, West Ham and Cardiff will do is show a little bit of passion. And one thing Liverpool, Chelsea and Arsenal have got is a bit of class. So really, that could be a none. We could take no points from that, but I'd like to think that at least one of them games we'll take points from. Mitchell says, I would absolutely love to see Theo up top. Maybe that's something Marco Silva would want to do. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's something that would work. I think Theo, would benefit from playing in a different position because at the minute he's not really doing the business at right wing. Drew says it does look like he has lost the dressing room. It does on the pitch, but in Finch Farm it doesn't. You've seen these videos of them all hugging him and getting involved with them and having a laugh with them. That's not the type of content you see when somebody's lost the dressing room. You see the shocking interviews. You see players, I don't really want to play. You see this and that. You don't really see players enjoying themselves and loving it in training. But it's a really strange situation because on the pitch, it's a complete opposite. It's a complete contrast. Paul says, I'm 47, I've been lucky to see the Mighty Blues win trophies and play with the swaggering players who fight for the shirt. My first game was Aldershot at home, 1984 1 win. Exactly, I'm 20 now, 21 this year, and I haven't seen Everton win anything. And I'm slowly starting to see Everton become just a mid-table side. And that is the really, really disappointing thing for me. Manav says, 12 people watching. Thank you very much to everybody watching tonight. I really, really do appreciate your time. Manav also says, ready to smash PSG tonight. I assume you're a Manchester United fan. Be a good game, be a decent game. I'll have to catch up on that one. Paul says you will easily get 500 Make It A channel. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for all of the support. Drew says at this stage of the season, Silva, talking about losing the dressing room. Maybe he has. Matthew says Richarlison and Siggy cost more than Liverpool's front three, and scouting and scatter gun approach is bollocks. Exactly. Signing players because they are a big name and because they've done well for a mid-table side, aka Gylfi Sigurdsson, isn't the type of approach that I think we should be going for, and isn't the type of approach that I think Marcel Brands will go for. I've said this before. I've said this to the lads in the pub. I've said it on stream. Would Marcel Brands have spent a week negotiating £1 million for Gylfi Sigurdsson? No. Would he have spent 45 million on Gylfi Sigurdsson in the first place? No. So you have to look at that. But on the flip side, he spent 35 on Richarlison, and I really, really like Richarlison. I think one thing Richarlison does show is a little bit of fight, a little bit of passion. Yes, he's frustrating, and I don't really think he understands the ways of English football yet, and the fact that you can't just throw yourself on the floor constantly because you're not going to get free kicks. But I think he actually does show a little bit. You see him punching the ground when he misses a chance, or you see him upset generally when we've lost, whereas some players just don't look arsed at all for me. Paul says, good point, Matthew. It's not just quality we need, it's desire and passion to win. A football brain would be nice. Exactly. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work harder. At the minute, doesn't matter how much talent you've got, our players aren't working hard. And for me, they're not looking like the most talented players in the world anyway, so it doesn't help us. Paul says, I cannot stand watching the garbage replaying and the same players come out with the cliches on the website. It does my nothing. Exactly. And you see it week in, week out, don't you? We know we need to be better. We're working on it, this, that. Listen, I understand that at the minute you mightn't be playing your best football. Doesn't mean there's any excuse to go out and not show 100%, not show fight. Look at the Manchester City game on Wednesday night, for example. We were beaten 2-0 at home by the best team in the league. We were beaten by a goal that we pretty much concede every week, a ball over the top into the box. And a last minute, literally dying minute, 97th minute of the game, sloppy mistake. Really, we were beaten by 2 goals that could have easily been avoided, and we held our own for the majority of that game. We showed a little bit of passion, we showed a little bit of fight, and I think the majority of fans come out and went, you know what, I'm pretty proud of that performance. Manchester City beat Chelsea 6-0 on Saturday. I think it was Saturday or Sunday. 6-0. They beat them 6-0. They're one of the best teams in the league as well. At the minute, they're in a bit, bit of an awful situation, but you can't deny it. Chelsea have got some of the best players in the league, and ultimately are challenging for top 4. We at the minute are challenging for the top 10. They're challenging for the top 4. City beat them 6-0, beat us 2-0. We showed a little bit of fight, we showed a little bit of desire. I said if we play like that against Watford, we'll beat Watford. What did we do? We turned around and we didn't show any of it. We didn't show any class, we didn't show any willingness, we didn't show any desire. We just looked poor. We just looked like we didn't want to be there. We didn't play with the type of urgency and passion that we did against Manchester City, and the urgency and passion that held Manchester City off for large majorities of that game. We didn't. And like, we'll go into talking about the game now, of course, because it's the game review and we do have to talk about the game, despite the fact that I don't particularly want to. Listen, there's not much to say, is there? Let's be honest, there's really not much to say. For me, it was an absolutely boring game of football. It defined average 0-0 Premier League game of football that, you know, you wouldn't want to watch over again. Waste of 2 hours, really. But obviously, Watford come out with the win because Marco Silva made a very silly substitution, brought off a midfielder for an attacker, left a massive hole in the midfield, and they put one simple ball across the box and an easy finish. Basically, the fella wasn't marked. The whole run up the low, lead up the play to lead to the goal was, you know, totally unmarked. Players weren't aware of their position, players weren't aware of their situation. A ball into the box, and Andre Gray, who'd been on the pitch literally 5 or 10 minutes, was standing in the box ready to put it in the goal. And that was it. We didn't show any desire to go on and you know, try and get a goal back. We missed some absolutely shocking chances. Calvert-Lewin, I love Calvert-Lewin and I think he should have started, but he missed some absolutely golden chances. I mean, 2 golden chances. I think Cenk Tosun missed one as well, where he was, you know, okay, 3 mile offside, but he didn't know he was, and if he wasn't offside, it was the sitter of the season. So what's happening at the minute, as I think what we're seeing as Evertonians, is a mix between a lack of passion, a lack of heart, and a lack of desire, and just a lack of quality. At the minute, I just don't think these players are as good as we may hype them up to be. I think as Evertonians, we can watch a set of players win 4 games on the run or put in a really decent performance against one of the top sides, and we can go, we could challenge for the top 6 here. But it's not until you see us play teams around us that you actually think, are these players as good as what we think they are? No, realistically, they're not. Again, I'll go back to another Premier League like game at the weekend. Newcastle were, you know, seconds away from beating Wolves last night. Wolves scored in the dying minutes. Newcastle were 1-0 up. Newcastle, a team fighting for survival, fighting to stay out of that relegation zone, have been really, really poor this season. Held Wolves to you know, a draw, and didn't held Wolves to a draw. We're very unlucky to not come away with the 3 points. Wolves come to Goodison Park 2 weeks prior and absolutely flatten us off the park and look like Barcelona and make us look like a team that, you know, are just average and plain. What's going on here? How come Newcastle can get something against a team like Wolves and we get turned over? Because Newcastle actually showed a bit of fight. They showed a bit of passion and they said, listen, to be honest, we don't care about how good your players are. We don't care about how much hard you're going to try. We're going to try harder. And they very nearly come away with the win. Whereas we just go, oh, your players are probably better, so no point in trying. And I think that's the really, you know, the massive issue for me. Like I said, please do leave a like if you are enjoying the stream so far. I do apologise as well that it wasn't yesterday. Like I said, I did have a little bit of an issue with my back, so I've left it a day or so to talk about this game. And luckily enough, Everton don't play for 2 weeks, so we don't have to talk about any more games of football for another couple of weeks now. But we still will be streaming. I just want to make it absolutely clear that the content will still be flowing in. We'll have a stream tomorrow at 6:15. So make sure you join us at 6:15 tomorrow, where we'll be discussing the issues at Everton Football Club. Is it all Marco Silva's fault, or is there issues higher up the board? Does Farhad Moshiri have to take some of the blame? Is maybe Duncan Ferguson an issue at this football club? We'll be going into some detail about that as well. I'd greatly appreciate it if, you know, as many of you guys can come over as possible, because like I've said many a time in the past, this is a fan channel. It's not my channel. It's not about me saying, oh, here's my opinion, you know, believe that. It's not. You can believe me, you can, you know, agree with my opinion, you can disagree with it. I don't speak for Everton Football Club. I don't speak for any of you guys watching now. I don't speak for anybody watching as a video. I just speak for me, and it's my opinion. So it'd be fantastic if you guys could join us tomorrow 6:15 again, and like I said, we'll talk in detail about the issues at our football club. You guys can have your say. Some of you might think it's all Silva. Some of you might think it's, you know, it's Silva is the least of the issues. There's other issues as well. So make sure that you can join us if you possibly can. If not, don't worry, the stream will obviously be going up as a video afterwards. So if you're busy tomorrow night, then understandable, of course. Everybody has a life. I don't expect everybody to drop what they're doing to come and watch a small blonde, I was going to say child, then, but I'm not a child, a small blonde kid, I suppose, talking about Everton Football Club. So you can catch up with it as a video and then leave your comments in the regular YouTube comments down below, and I'll be getting involved with all them as well. We'll then have another video out on Friday. I'm not too sure what we'll be talking about, but if you've got any suggestions, leave them in the comments section down below. We'll be talking about the football club, of course. We'll be talking about Everton, and the content will carry on flowing until we play Cardiff City in a couple of weeks. Let's get back on to the live comments now. Where were we up to? Matthew says, what does comfort me is that we do have coin and are bound to get top class sooner and getting a new stadium. We do have the money, and you know the stadium figures have been released today. I suppose it's a good opportunity to go into them. I'll probably do a little video later on in the night talking about them, but we'll talk about them on Steam here. So Everton have released, or the People's Project should I say, have released the results from the first public consultation regarding the Bramley-Moore Stadium. So they have announced that 20,168 questionnaires were completed, which is absolutely unbelievable. 94% agree that Bramley-Moore Dock is an appropriate location for the new Everton Stadium. Again, fantastic news, and 3 out of 4 non-Evertonians support the club's plans for Bramley-Moore Docks, which again is fantastic news. So some really good positive news to come out of the stadium talks at the minute. Like I said, there's other issues at the football club that I think we need to resolve before we even think about moving stadium, but it's something positive to think about, at least with the football club, and not having to think about these poor performances. Paul says the formation has got to change for me, Cam, in my opinion. I think we should stick with a 4-3-3, see how that goes for a couple of games, and just stay with the same formation and the same team and see how that goes. Mitchell says Newcastle have got a La Liga winner and a Champions League winner in charge, to be fair. Exactly, is that the difference? If that's the difference, let me know in the comment section down below. Stu says, fight with all our might for the boys in the royal blue jersey. And Mitchell says, I'll be here. Thank you very much, Mitchell. But I think I'm going to leave it there for today's stream anyway. Like I've said, listen, briefly just on the performance, we were really poor. It was a really boring game in itself, not much to talk about. Obviously the goal for me was because Marco Silva decided to bring on a right winger and take off a central midfielder, which was just a poor decision, in my opinion at least. And literally nothing much happened in the game other than that. We created very little, and the chances that we did created, we wasted. And I think it's just boiling down at the minute to the fact that we just don't have enough quality in our team. The players aren't quite good enough, and on top of that, they're not showing enough passion and fight. Because if you do show a little bit of passion and fight, you will generally get through these games against your Watfords, against your Wolves, against your Southamptons, against your Leicesters. You'll generally get through them and get wins, and you will struggle against the the top teams. But we ain't showing any quality, and we ain't showing any passion at the minute, and that's the reason why we're losing these games. Obviously, Kurt Zouma's sending off was a big point in the game as well. Kurt Zouma being sent off after the final whistle for squaring up with the referee. Nothing really has been said about that. What we do know is that he will not be suspended for the Cardiff game. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Yerry Mina will be fit and obviously available to play that game. Otherwise, we might have to delve into the under-21s, maybe give Morgan Feeney a go. Who knows? But hopefully Yerry Mina is fit and can come in for Kurt Zouma and see how he does. And then for me, like I said, we need to keep that consistent basis, and Marco Silva needs to find his best team, what works best for him, his captain, and keep that, for the foreseeable future. Now, if it's Tom Davis, it's Tom Davis. When Baines comes back, it's Tom Davis. When Coleman comes back, it's Tom Davis. Doesn't matter how experienced they are, doesn't matter how long they've been at the club, your captain is your captain, and it doesn't change every single week, and that inconsistency isn't helping the football club. But just to summarise, like I said, a really poor game of football, I thought. Again, another really poor performance, another shocking result, but that goes without saying now. That's pretty much the same every single week. But overall, a really poor game of football, and one definitely forget for Marco Silva and the Blues. Shabba says, thanks again, Cam, another relevant stream. Thank you very much, Shabba, for all your support. And Drew says, give the stream a like, boys. Thank you very much, Drew, as well. Yeah, like Drew said, please do leave a like on the stream if you did enjoy it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. We're looking to get to that 400 mark as soon as possible. So thank you all very much for your support. A massive thank you to everybody in the live chat. As per usual, another fantastic stream tonight. A massive thanks to everybody for getting involved. If you're watching this as a YouTube video afterwards, a massive thank you for taking your time out of your day to watch the YouTube video. And please do leave your comments in the comment section down below about what you think the issues are at our football club at the minute, and why did we lose that game on Saturday? Was it because of the substitution? Was it just because we're not good enough? Was it because the players didn't show enough passion? Let me know in the comment section down below. But anyway, that is going to do it for me. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow at 6:15, so make sure you do join us tomorrow to discuss some of the issues at the football club and discuss why we are in this situation at the minute. I'll then be back on Friday at 6:15 for another live stream, so make sure you are around then as well. But that is it from me today. Another poor performance, another poor result from Everton at the weekend. Definitely want to forget, and now we just have to look forward now to the Cardiff game and hope that the 2-week rest or the 17-day rest for the Blues has a massive impact on them, and we actually go out and we show a little bit of passion, we show a little bit of fight, and we win that game of football. Because if we can't beat Cardiff, no disrespect to Cardiff, but if we can't beat Cardiff, then we're definitely in a relegation battle, in my opinion. So let's see what happens in that one. But anyway, that is going to do it for me. A massive thank you to everybody watching, whether you're watching live or as a video. Massive thank you for all of your support. I'll see you tomorrow at 6:15 for another live stream. Make sure you're around if you can be. If not, massively appreciate you checking it out after it's gone live at a video. So massive thank you to everybody once again. Hope you have enjoyed the stream, and I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.